I'm back for another video this week, and I have a really exciting one to do today. Thanks to this commenter, Justin, I got the idea to just do a comprehensive collection tour for my Monster High dolls. So it's going to take a really long time to get through all of these dolls, so let's jump right in. I was originally going to do the video in order of how I got my Monster High dolls, but to be honest, I was thinking about it and I actually just can't remember who came before another one. So I think I'm just going to go from one end of my room to the other, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. So here are the first few dolls I grabbed off my shelf. The first one I picked up was Katrine. I have her complete, her diary and her little accessories are somewhere, but I really like this doll. She was one of the first ones I got. She was probably my first 10 ever. I remember I traded a Glibberties and Lundum caddy for her, and I was just not that that's not a really nice doll, but I was just so shocked that somebody would let this Katrine go for that. And yeah, I think it was my first Monster High trade ever too, which makes it a really special doll. Next up, we have Freak Du Chic Twyla, and I have definitely talked about this doll a lot on my channel, but I just love her. I wish I had her shoes so I could just put her stilts on and she would be complete. It's definitely on my radar. It's one of the things that's bothering me the worst about not having in my collection. Another doll that I've definitely shown you guys before is Freak Du Chic Claudine. This is one of the coolest dolls ever made. I'm obsessed with this doll. And I'm obsessed with her little, what is this, crescent? I'm obsessed with her little lion too. Once I get her hoop, she'll finally be complete too. Hoop doesn't bother me as bad as some other accessories, so it's pretty low down on my priority list. But if anybody has that for trade or sale, hit my line. Next up is Student Disembodied Council Scara, and I have a really cute story of how I wound up coming to own this doll. My mom and I are obsessed with going to Savers, which is kind of how my Monster High addiction started to begin with. But we basically go to Savers almost every single Tuesday, if not more, multiple times a week. And one day we were at a Savers, one that we didn't usually go to, and I looked out the car window, the passenger side window, and I was like, that's a Monster High doll on the floor. And my mom was like, there's no way. So I literally got out of the car while she was driving looking for a parking spot, went over to where I saw this doll laying on the ground, and I just picked her up, and I don't know what happened there. Nobody seemed like they had lost her, and I'm not gonna let a Monster High doll just be on the floor somewhere. So obviously I took her home, and I always joke, I've gotten a lot of the dolls in my collection for free, but this one was this is probably the freest one I've ever gotten because it was literally just trash on the side of the road and I picked her up. I feel like I rescued her, which is delusional because she's a piece of plastic. Ooh, this is one of my favorite dolls in my collection. When I first got Wisp, I was not I didn't get the hype over this doll, but I am a believer now. I love her. And I don't know, I have her little lamp. I wish I could display her with her little genie tail, but the way that my collection is set up across my room right now, I don't have a spot for her that would accommodate the tail. I wound up getting a really, really, really good deal on her and Valentine. I got both of the dolls for $270, which, like I said, if you know about these dolls, they go for a lot more than that. I think individually they sell for over $270. So I basically got one for completely free, which was excellent. The next doll I want to share with you guys is Freak Du Chic Honey Swamp. Somebody commented on one of my videos about her recently. Let me go see who it was. Trista was saying that I didn't mention Freak Du Chic Honey in one of my videos, and it's totally my fault because I'm obsessed with this doll too. I feel like her design from Freak Du Chic is better than her original character design. She was all one color from Frights Camera Action, but the purple hair really contrasts with her skin in such a beautiful way. And yeah, I will never get rid of this doll. I'm obsessed with her. So the back row of this shelf over here is my 3 haunted dolls, and here she is. I know she's missing her waist chains. I'm going to get them eventually. It's definitely something that's bothering me, but I do have her little purse, which gives me a really hard time staying on her wrist. But whenever my mom comes in my room, she's always she doesn't get this doll. And I think it's because she is faceless, you can't really see her features pop like the other Monster High dolls. But I still really adore her. I think she's one of the prettiest. This was the first haunted doll that was on my radar before River and even Rochelle. I did a trade a while ago. I had a complete Meowity and Persephone, the original signature dolls, and I wound up trading them for her and Nephra, who were incomplete, but the girl bundled some like stockings and purses and shoes and things I didn't own for my other dolls. I think she's so pretty and I have no regrets about it at all. I have this River Styx. I've definitely talked about her on my channel before too. I think this doll is amazing. And my favorite feature about this, which I don't think they did again until like Symphony Midnight, the Off-White doll came out, is that you can see like the bones in her arms and her legs. I heard that they were originally planning to do like a transparent like face and you could see her skull behind it, but it was just like too like radical for the time. So what Symphony looks like now would have been what River looked like back then if it would have like passed, you know, up the corporate ladder. It would have been cool to have that feature, but I don't mind this like whatsoever. Finally, we have the doll that like everybody wants to steal when they see my collection. Ta-da! It's Haunted Rochelle. I adore this doll. I can't say how much that this doll means to me, and it means even more to me because my boyfriend bought this for me. Christmas last year, I was saying that I didn't want anything besides a Haunted Rochelle. And I only said that because like this doll can get like really, really expensive, especially if she's complete, which mine is. She just doesn't have all of her parts on her right now. I was looking around for listings for him to find like one that was a fair price, and we randomly came across one day when we were in the car on Mercari. And she was listed for $100. The original listing was for like 200 something, and they randomly discounted it down to 100 with like her purse, not her purse, her diary, her stand, her hairbrush, everything. He bought it and he held it until Christmas, and now she is like she's one of the holy grail dolls in my collection. Next we have, oop, I just lost her pet, Signature Toralei. And I know mine doesn't have a tail, but it's in the mail. So she will have a tail very soon. This is one of my favorite dolls in my collection and one of my favorite characters on the show. I think that Toralei, like, she's done terrible, terrible, evil things to, like, the main cast, like, don't get me wrong, but I think she's a very interesting villain. Like, she's very likable because, like, she's funny. Sweet Fangs is one of the cutest pets. Like, he's got such a dopey, innocent face, like, you can't even tell who's who, it's the same face. Next on my list is Iris, who I've talked about a couple of times too. This was actually one of the first dolls in my collection, probably like my first like 3 ever. I found her at a thrift store when I was like 20 or 19, and I just I didn't even really know what Monster High was. I had no idea what her name was. I just saw one-eyed cute monster girl and I was like, I have to own this. People are always asking me to like sell her or trade her when they see my collection, and I have had a lot of opportunities to offload her before, but I just can't. She's one of the oldest dolls in my collection, and if you're a collector as well, you know that like nostalgia starts to like warp your point of view with them. Even if it wasn't, I just think Iris is a really cool doll, and I hope to get more of her accessories to complete the I Heart fashion. Next up is everyone's favorite evil older sister, Nephra. This is one of my favorite pets as well. Like, up there with like the bitchy spider and Sweet Fangs, like Azura's really cool. My Nephra is missing her necklace and her belt. I am like on the hunt for them actively, but unlike she was missing her head cage for a while too, and like that, like you just look at the doll and like you could immediately tell something's wrong with it. I don't feel like the necklace and the belt like upset me as much as like not having the head cage. I really like Nephra. I think she's another really, really, really beautiful character. I don't know why they're putting their whole monstrosity into like making the villains like hot as hell, but Nephra is like a 10 out of 10 for me. I'm like so thrilled that I own this doll. Next up, we have some Monster High couples. And of course, I have to start out with my favorite Monster High couple, Abby and Heath. I have these two next to each other on my display. I mean, you can't really see it here, but right above this window, I have a really long shelf, and I have these two literally right next to each other exactly like this because I'm obsessed with them. And I don't know, they just need each other. With the stockings dolls, like, does anybody else have the problem where they're like literally always riding down? Like, Abby like just wants to show panty. And next up is arguably the most popular couple at Monster High ever. It's Deuce and Cleo. I love these two. Deuce, I got him with a broken arm, so I took an arm from another Deuce, but it's just not compatible with this one, I guess. So I keep it like very delicately propped up, and then when I have them displayed, I just hide it behind her so like nobody knows that it's like effed up. Next up, I just have some basic signature dolls. So I probably should have explained this when I brought Cleo and Deuce out, but I wound up getting all of my original like signature main cast dolls in a huge lot. I have their pets too. And it was at like a flea market. I saw it listed online, and then I messaged them and I was like, hey, like I'm gonna come like look at it, and they were like, we're closed, like be here at 11 a.m. tomorrow. So I was like, okay. When I walked into the place, the bin was like a huge like plastic storage bin with like duct tape over the top. And it was like a mixture of like Bratz, like ratty looking Barbies, and like Monster High. You could see on the very top of the bin a Draculaura with her shirt on and nothing else, and a nude Ghoulia. I was allowed to like shake the bin, but I wasn't allowed to like put my hands in it. So I was like kind of buying it sight unseen, basically. Like I could see the top layer, but like not much else. The guy had it listed for 100, and I was like hemming and hawing just because I really couldn't get my hands on anything in there. And he was like, screw it, like, do you want for 75? And I was like, whatever. Like, I don't own any of the signature dolls. At least I'll have like, you know, something fun to play with, right? As I got home and I started unboxing it, I found literally almost every signature original doll ever. Frankie, Cleo, Deuce, Spectra, Ghoulia, Draculaura, Cleo. The only one that I didn't get was Laguna, and if you know anything about me, like that was no love lost at all. A lot of the girls came with a majority of their accessories, but some of them didn't. I was lucky enough that like almost every character was just missing like one or two things, and they weren't like very important things. Like for example, Draculaura didn't have her skirt, which was a pretty easy find. Deuce didn't have his pet. Ghoulia doesn't have her headband, things like that. She doesn't have a lot of things, but that's beside the point. Ghoulia and Frankie were part of the lot. But Draculaura, right here, she was also part of the lot, and she came with everything, like I said, besides her skirt, which was like a really, really good find. Like I said, there was no Laguna in the lot, but I found a really good deal for a gold elastic Laguna to just match the set a little while later. I think she was like $30. She's missing a lot of stuff, but it's like, I just stick her in the back on the shelf and I forget she's even there. So Claudine was also in the box that I found with all of the signature gold elastic dolls back then. However, she was missing probably the most parts out of everyone, and her hair is suffering from the worst case of glue seepage in my whole collection, probably. She also has arms that if you gently tug on them, they just pop right out of the socket. So this is a doll that, even though I love her, she is like in the back row on my shelf just because like she is not as nice as other dolls in my collection, unfortunately. But she does have Crescent, so that is a win. Now, Operetta was a doll that I had traded for. I forgot who I traded for her, but she was missing a lot of parts. She didn't have her mask, she didn't have her purse, she didn't have a pet, a diary. Basically just came with like her two little shirts and her earring. I had to get everything else on my own. I did wind up completing her. She is still missing her pet, but I have everything else now, I think. The thing that really bothers me about this doll is her hair. I followed a lot of YouTube tutorials to try to get it to go back to the way that it was, and eventually I just put these bobby pins in and was like, F it, like it's just gonna go on the shelf like that because that's the only way that I can get her little victory rolls to hold. I think I've mentioned this before, but Venus was actually my very first Monster High doll ever, and because of that, like I'm like obsessed with her. For those of you who don't know, before I went for my degree in economics, I was studying entomology, which is this insect biology, basically. And around the time that I was studying insect biology, I went to a garage sale, and some girl, I wish I could go back in time and buy every single one of these dolls, but some girl was selling like her entire collection of Generation 1 Monster High dolls for like $5 a pop, and there were a lot of them, and they were all in excellent condition because, I mean, my Venus to this day is in perfect condition. She was basically complete when I bought her. She just didn't have her pet or her bag, which I still don't have to this day. But like I said, huge regret. I always think like what my collection would be like if I wound up buying her entire collection that day. Those were the glory days back when Monster High was like super cheap and no one wanted it. But yeah, Venus was my very first Monster High doll, and before I had all of these shelves to display everyone, I have a little perfume and like nail polish shelf over there, and I had her sitting on it. And she just sat there alone for like 3 or 4 years until I got my ass in the thrift store and started finding them. Next up is Rochelle. I talk about this doll enough. Like, I don't feel like I need to go into any more detail. She's my favorite one in my collection. She's my favorite character on the show. And if you don't love her, you are going to jail. The last two I have on my signature doll shelf are Spectra and Widona. This is one of my favorite dolls in my collection. I love Spectra too, don't get me wrong, but like, I remember seeing this before I was like really into Monster High, and I was like, oh my god, they gave a doll 6 arms. Like, I just couldn't believe that they would do something like this. And like I said, my background is in entomology, insect biology, so of course, like, spider doll, I'm there. My mom actually bought this for me, not for Christmas this past year, but the Christmas before, and that just makes me love her even more, honestly, because, I don't know, my mom has contributed a lot to my collection, and I love looking at a doll and just being like, oh, my mommy bought me that. Even when I was only collecting, like, my most favorite, like, when I had a collection of, like, 10 or less, she was, like, on my radar. And then let's just take a look at Spectra before we move on to the last shelf. She has quite a few of her parts, actually. She doesn't have her pet or her purse, but good news, her purse is in the mail. I always say that, like, if I went to Monster High, like, if I was a monster, like, either I would be Spectra or I would be best friends with Spectra, because, like, we're just kind of the same person. She writes for The Ghostly Gossip, which is basically, like, an online blog about, like, drama and happenings at Monster High. And I love to gossip, and I also write an online blog for my career. Not that I, like, thought that going through my collection was going to be, like, quick or anything, because I do have 40 dolls, but I thought it was going to be a little bit quicker than it's going. Next up, I have Swim Class Rochelle. I've talked about her before, too, but just I had to have her because she's a Rochelle doll that exists. Got Zombie Shake Rochelle, another doll that I think is just incredible. Let's take a shot every time I say, I love this doll. This doll is wonderful. It's incredible. I love this doll. Another one that my mom bought for me, I think for actually just no reason this time. I told her, yeah, so we bought it back in like November of last year, and I was like, just hold it till Christmas, like it'll be fine. And then I went away for the weekend, and I just saw her like sitting on my shelf, because my mom's like a gift giver like that. She'll just like be so excited to give it to you. She'll give it early. I'm not complaining. Let's see, we got Cupid. Talked about her before too. I got this doll in a thrift store back when I was like 19. This is probably around the same time that I got my Iris. She might have even been gotten on the same day that I got my Iris, to be honest with you. They all kind of just like blend into each other, but there was a period of time where I was getting like maybe 3 dolls per thrift trip, if not more. A classic Elizabeth. A lot of people just call her Purple Drac, including my mom and my boyfriend. My boyfriend looks at this doll every single time and he's like, oh, that's like Purple Draculaura. Fun fact, I was selling a lot of Squishmallows on Facebook, like a bunch. And I had them listed for really cheap, probably like 20 bucks for like an entire garbage bag full of them. And some lady messaged me and she was like, hey, like, are you into like trading? Like, would you trade a garbage bag full of Monster High dolls for your garbage bag full of Squishmallows? So of course I'm like salivating when this message comes in my inbox. But it actually wound up being real, and I met up with her in a Cheesecake Factory parking lot. Unfortunately, a lot of the other dolls in the lot like were either, it was like a lot of Ever After High and things like that. I just don't think she knew the difference. But I got her, and there was a Batsy in it that I remember really, really liking. The rest of the dolls from that lot I've either traded or sold at this point. But Alyssa is like, she was worth making the 40-minute trip out there just for her. We're in the home stretch here, don't worry. Scarus Rochelle. Gorgeous, beautiful. She's a staple. This was the first Rochelle doll that I ever owned as a collector, and she had no clothes when I got her, so we had to go out and buy all of the clothes, but to be honest, I think she was worth it. This is another doll that I've talked about ad nauseum, but Forbidden Love Draculaura. Somebody commented on my video that they really like when they do like different, like the pink and yellow color scheme of Draculaura, and I have to agree. I think that a lot of her strongest designs are when she's pink and yellow. Just thinking off the top of my head, Freak 2 Chic Draculaura is pink and yellow, and you all know how I feel about that doll. Yeah, this was another one that came from that gigantic bin. Sorry, I'm trying to like get her arm to bend around the right way. I wound up getting this doll in the same bin that all of the first wave, the signature gold elastic dolls came in. And she did come with a Claude, but you know, I don't like Claude, so I don't feel bad about getting rid of him, to be honest with you. Next up, we have my Sweet 1600 dolls. Valentine and Draculaura. I got him at the same time as I got Genie, obviously, and even though he doesn't have his glasses or his diary, I mean, like, that price is still insane. Unfortunately, my Sweet 1600 Draculaura is, like, missing everything besides her panties. Also, her hair is kind of a mess, but what can you do? And then next to Valentine and Draculaura, Garrot and Rochelle. Like I said, I could really take or leave Love and Scarus Rochelle, to be honest. Like I said, she's just kind of pale and like washed out, but She did come with Garrot, so I really wanted to have these two just to have, like, you know, because I'm like a diehard Rochelle collector. He's in really good shape too. I got him from a seller off of Facebook. She was like a mom who didn't really know like any of the names of the dolls or like how to use pirate ship or any of that, so I had to like hold her hand through all of it. I think I even helped her make a PayPal, but these dolls were $50 shipped. There go his wings. So if you know, you know. That was a really good deal. Ghouls Night Out Rochelle, total classic. I've talked about her before. This doll is not that expensive, and I think she's one of the most beautiful Rochelles ever. So if you're trying to get into the hobby, definitely pick her up first. She's very affordable. So this is another one that I've shown you guys in the past. This is Freak du Chic Rochelle. I am like utterly obsessed with this doll, and her swing just makes it like even better. I genuinely can't tell if it's the swing that makes me love this doll so much or if it's the doll itself, because like it just adds so much. I apologize in advance if you hear like storm going on outside. It's because like there's a storm going on outside, but yeah, it's getting loud to me, so you guys can probably hear it. The next two dolls I want to share are my custom Rochelle. This outfit is from a seller on Etsy, and the tutu I think was a Bratz tutu. I love the Freak du Chic Rochelle face so much. I keep saying this in every video that I have, but it's true. It's one of the nicest, and if I could have like 100 dolls just to like put little cute outfits on, like that would be my whole collection. It would just be this one doll in different outfits. She's another one, even though she's not like an official like Monster High doll. Like if my house was on fire, I would be saving this doll because I love her so much. And then we have Newspaper Club Draculaura. I showed you guys her in my last video just because she was brand new to me back then. I mean, she's still the newest doll in my collection. But I wound up getting, I don't know where this camera is from. I don't think it's a Newspaper Club camera, but I found it at like a hobby shop and it looked close enough to me. And then I 3D printed her a Dawn of the Dance hat. So even though she's like technically not complete, like when she sits on my shelf, like she looks complete, and like that's enough for me. And finally, the last Monster High dolls in my collection are the Nightmare Before Christmas set. I started collecting heavily again at like the middle of last summer, and when they announced this was going to happen, like I like shit a brick, for lack of better word. Nightmare Before Christmas has been one of my favorite movies ever since I was a little girl. I remember watching this with my mom when I was like 10 years old, like on our living room TV. I was like a scene kid, like, you know, you just make it your personality when you're younger. My boyfriend and my mom and me on drop day trying to get this doll, and luckily me and my boyfriend both got it. And because we both got it, he was able to keep his. Because you know I would have made him sell it to me. My boyfriend also really loves this movie. And we always kind of like joke, like corny, like that we're Jack and Sally, obviously. And we've even gone as far as to name our cat Zero. Totally normal obsession. Oh, actually, let me show you one more thing. I found this at Dollar Tree pretty recently. It's just like a little Zero. And I always said to myself, if I unboxed my dolls, like I would set this up with them. Because it's literally like the perfect like Monster High pet size too. Like I was gagged when I found this. Yeah, that was my complete Monster High collection as of April of 2024. I think it would be a good idea to do this kind of video like maybe annually just to like check in with my collection, but let's be honest, like my collection could explode like $40 greater by the time summer starts. Let me know which one of my dolls was your favorite, and if you have any other ideas for videos. Like I said, this idea for this video came from one of the comments on my last video, so I'm totally down to make whatever you guys would find interesting. And yeah, that's basically it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you stuck around to the end, I know I'm like a yap machine, so it's really appreciated. I'll see you in the next one.